time to bring up our headliner. Our headliner this evening is Amy Woodall. This is Amy's third time on the Sparks stage. She holds the title for the second most watched Sparks Talk, as Chris talked about earlier. Amy's the executive president, the executive vice president, I'll say it right, at Sandler Training Trust Point. She's traveled the world, a lot of times in the Dutch countries, like her Fazer, helping people learn how to communicate more effectively and develop stronger sense of self-awareness. Her tell it like it is style makes her a favorite among clients and audiences alike. Let's give Amy a big round of applause.
Hello. Is this working? God, I feel like I'm normally so much louder than this. That's like the most boring thing of all time. I really should have sent you something, a little better about myself. Is the time counting down yet? I've got to click it to the next one. I see. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so we're live. All right, so the topic today, it's not going to be so much sex covered as much as it's going to be why we suck at love, sex, and romance. Happy Valentine's Day. Yeah. How many of you are spending more on your bar tab than you are a Valentine tonight? So good news, 50% of you are going to get lucky tonight, and the other 50% of us are married, so we have that going for us. So when Chris asked me to talk and he told me the subject, I was like, okay, sex, I'm so glad. They did a wonderful job, and they really brought some good content to it. I was thinking, okay, what's really the problem here when we think Valentine's Day, when we think love and romance? And I think that it's based on the expectation that we bring to the table. And I don't really know why. I mean, we had the greatest love stories of all time. It really painted a very realistic picture of what love would be like when you're older. I mean, if you could just be a princess, and speak to animals or inanimate objects, then ultimately you were going to find a man who could see the qualities in you that maybe you couldn't see for yourself and fight through all of the odds to come and rescue you, and you would live happily ever after. Or maybe you could be a hooker and meet Richard Gere. I mean, there were lots of options. And then we grow up and we get married. And guys, most of us, we've grown up since then, we know that fairy tales don't really exist, right? That's what we have social media for. I mean, we can base all of our reality on other people's happy pictures. For example, I really thought that marriage would have more cuddling in coffee shops together, or that we would do the cute arm thing, around the sun, or that we'd have the happy family pictures of everybody getting along and supporting one another, and then someday we would grow old and be the couple there, just walking hand in hand next with their bicycles. And life would be magical. Well, yeah, magic. Reality hits. This is my family photo. I mean, 3 out of 4 ain't bad. And you know what I found out? My husband doesn't even like coffee or PDA. And we tried the little arm thing around the sun, but the kids were too busy complaining about how bored they were on our $10,000 vacation. And obviously, smiling isn't all of our strong suits. He gets it from his dad. And then, the whole growing old thing, I don't know if you guys can read that or not, but it says, "Dear love of my life, your blanking clothes I folded and put on the dresser 2 weeks ago are still sitting there. These are the reasons I've contemplated hugging your face with the pillow while you sleep." And then, of course, I had to send a kissy face in case he tried to use it, against me when the cops asked him what happened to the body. And how many of us just lie in bed at night thinking, why can't he be more like Jack? Do you watch This Is Us? Still not quite over it. So I don't really think that the problem is marriage or relationships at all. I actually think that they can be beautiful things, because behind all of the reality that I'm showing you there is yes, it's the mundane stuff, but there's also a lot of happiness. But we really base what we think our happiness should be like based on what we're seeing from other people, based on what we see on TV, based on what we're posting on Instagram with that perfect editing, by the way. I mean, and Snapchat, I mean, who doesn't want to know what they look like with bunny ears and a cute little nose? So I think the problem, what are the real problems behind it? And I believe that how we do anything is how we do everything. So it's not just the expectations that we're putting out there for relationships or marriage. It's also in your friendships, and it's also how you're showing up for work, and it's also how you're communicating with your customers. All of these things come to life in every aspect of our lives that we're living. And the first one, I think it's the constant comparison, which I mentioned that a little bit already. Do you know that we are unhappier now than we have ever been before? Did you know that? I just made that up, but you guys believe it, right? No, actually, I do think that it's true that some studies have shown that people are unhappier than they've ever been before, and our lives are really easier. I mean, 100 years ago, sure, our lives sucked, but we didn't have the internet to show us that it sucked. We didn't know. You know, so the constant comparison, looking at someone else's life, can certainly make things more difficult for us. The idea that it is someone else's job to make you happy. Do you know how often we put the responsibility of our happiness in someone else's hands? That's a big burden to bear. Mind reading. How many of you have ever been in trouble for doing something you didn't know you weren't supposed to do? Thank you, right? When your spouse gets home and they're thinking, yeah, dishes aren't done. Well, now you're sleeping on the couch for the rest of your... What do you mean? What do you mean? What we do is we start to align somebody's behavior and assume what their intentions are. So let me wrap mind reading and intentions behavior together. I do travel a lot for work, and my husband should know, without me telling him clearly, that when I get home from a business trip, I don't want to have to worry about cleaning or doing the dishes. I missed my family. I want to hang with my kids. I want to hang with my husband. I want to have a good time. So when I walk in and there's dishes everywhere, oh, well, you know what? He probably did it because he thinks it's my job, right? Right? Because I'm the woman. It's my job. And I just start creating this big whole issue. That's not the reality. The reality is he was busy too. He had to take the kids to practice. He had to make dinner. And we do this in our relationships all the time. We assume that someone's not doing something for us because they don't want to. And it's because you never told them that you needed it. And we assume that because they're not doing it, they have bad intentions. And really their intentions are very pure, but they don't know how to read your freaking mind. And the last piece, conditional love. You know, this actually hit me really on a big way when I was talking to a friend who's single, and she keeps saying, I need to find a guy who can see how great I am, who can find all of my great qualities. And she was automatically putting conditions on a love that did not exist yet. The only true unconditional love is the one that we have for our child, because the moment they come out of our womb, you know, we love them without expectation that they have to do anything. We also have unconditional love for our dogs. Sorry, cat people, I don't get it, but I don't know. But we put conditions on our spouses, on other relationships. So how do we fix this? The first piece is forgiveness, and I'm not saying forgive your spouse. I'm not saying forgive the person who's done the wrong. I'm saying forgive yourself for setting the false expectation. Forgive the original idea that you had for yourself when you were sitting up there and we were young and dumb and said, I do. And realize that it's okay to create a different ending. Look for the good. Have you ever noticed that what you seek, you shall find? Some like really smart dude with long hair that wore sandals a couple thousand years ago said that, I think. If I were to tell you to go out and look for blue Jeeps on your drive home, well, it's dark now, so maybe try it tomorrow, you would be able to find those. If you are ticked off at your partner, then the only thing that you're going to be able to see from them is all the bad crap that they do. So if we want to be happier in life, we want to get better at these things, we've got to be willing to see the good. And embrace the differences. This is the tough part, because often we marry our opposite in some ways. If you are outgoing, maybe your spouse is an introvert. And that can be a reason that we point the finger at each other and we say, we're not right for one another. Maybe we need to get a divorce. But you know what's really good is that if you're the kind of person who leaves your dirty underwear on the floor, well, then your spouse is probably the kind of person who's going to come up behind you and pick it up. So we need each other. We need each other. The differences are actually really beautiful. And if we embrace those, they are. I mean, even though I still contemplate hugging his face with a pillow while we sleep, I do love my husband dearly. We are very different people, but that's okay. And the last piece here is practice CCC. It's not for anything dirty, I apologize. It would have been a lot more interesting if it was. But it's actually clear-cut communication. If we are expecting them to read our mind, we're always going to be so disappointed, guys. If you are wanting something done in the bedroom, if you are wanting something done in the romance department, if you are needing something else from your spouse that you aren't getting and you're not willing to have that conversation with them, then there is no one else to blame for your unsatisfaction than yourself. Hang on, right? We're almost there. We're all the same. Here's what I have learned. Something that has been so eye-opening for me and the ability to meet people and travel and train in different countries is that ultimately at the end of the day, it does not matter our background. It doesn't matter our gender. We want the same things in life. We're looking for validation, for someone to tell us you're worthy. Love, for someone to say you are worth loving. Acceptance, for someone to tell us we belong. And last but not least, what we all really pray and hope for, calorie-free alcohol.